Hi, everybody. Welcome to another podcast on the series Inspiring Educators. We have a very inspirational person with us on the podcast today. I take this opportunity to welcome Mrs. Varsha Agarwal Rodewald, and I'm going to call her Varsha hereafter. Varsha is the senior school principal, middle school and senior school principal of SN International School. And there's an exciting journey that she's been through, where she started from and then what all she has experienced, studied in different countries. So I'm going to invite her to first introduce herself and to share her journey, how she decided to become an educator, how she decided to get into teaching, and then what has the journey been and what is she doing right now. Varsha, over to you. Please share your journey with our listeners.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. Thank you for having me and, allowing me to share my journey. I think it's important that educators listen to each other and, figure out that how you got there. In my case, I would say it was never planned. I never wanted to become a teacher. And where it all started was about 22 years ago. I think I can very correctly remember. I completed my Master of Business Administration at the University of Edinburgh. And I always wanted to get into, the corporate world, make that big money. That's what your parents expect out of you. It was not a time when you could rebel so much and say, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my passion is all about. So, of course, I completed my degree and I met my husband, and then I moved to Germany actually right after that. And even after doing so well in my MBA and after making 200 applications, finding a job was not easy for Indians, in Germany. Even with that qualification, what you got invited for was maybe, low or middle level management roles, which I was not seeking after working so hard and giving my best to it. And then, of course, I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it my way. And then I was just going through job ads one day and I saw a language school in Cologne, looking for English language teachers. So I've always had a passion for languages. I learned German not because of my husband, but I wanted to do something different. So after I graduated, a foreign language was very enticing. So I learned German, up to native level speaker within a span of 9 months. So that was my life. That's all I did, was speaking and learning that language. So I happened to, see that ad, and of course I got called for the interview, and I also landed up the job as a teacher. So again, very strange. Imagine me, a brown person, teaching English in a very white Germany. Of course, I was not teaching school kids. This was with a language school. So they offer language courses to corporate. So Bayer is very big, and most of my students were from there. So it was my journey that started in adult education. Very rewarding. I always say that as a teacher, irrespective of which audience you have, just that ability to get instant reactions. When you work for a company, your money will come in much later. You're putting in all the effort and that money will follow you maybe later, the profit or the loss, whatever. But just, being there face to face with individuals, learning together and seeing the reaction of all the efforts that you put in, that's where I thought, oh, I found my element. This is what I want to do. Right. So, of course, it was that. And then in 2012, I remember just walking up the slope. I'd moved back to Mumbai with my, kid and husband. And then I always wanted them to grow up in India. My children, I wanted them to rough it out here because I feel if you live here, you can live anywhere. Now, of course, my daughter is old enough to go back. She's actually going to be studying there next year. So I was just walking up the slope, on one of my evening walks, and I saw a bus shelter ad with some curious questions, from a school. And I said, oh, what's the school that's actually focusing on questions? Because you're always focusing on the right answers. And I said, no, that's where I want to apply. I had never taught kids before. So I said, I don't know what grade level they're looking for. And it was actually for a Hindi language teacher, the ad that I came across. So I said, yes, of course, I've taught English, I've taught German. I'm sure I can do, my bit for Hindi as well. I speak relatively good Hindi. And yes, so I had gone to a CBSE school and I'd always loved, like I said, I always love languages and I'm very passionate about keeping them alive. So I got called for that interview. I did the interview, and actually I then was told that they had offered the position to somebody. So, they don't have anything for me now, but I should wait. Within 2 days, I get another call and say, would you like to take it up? The other person is not able to make it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I'm a South Bombay girl. BKC is very far away, but I will make that big leap. You know how this whole thing with, for me, like going beyond Worli was like, no, I'm accepting a job in probably another,
Well, yeah.
town. Yeah. But, since then, it's been no looking back. So 2012 is when Ascent started. We started with 13 children and 15 faculty. And we are, I think, a good 350 plus today.
Wow.
We've always been a small school. We have grown by the year. So we never opened everything together. We learned, made our mistakes, open the next level. So you can imagine from 2012 to now, I've been through all the 3 programs of the IB, the primary years, the middle years, and the diploma program, both as a teacher and administrator. So you can imagine how enriching that journey has been. Establishing the programs, getting authorization, getting reevaluated by the IB. So it's like, it's the amount of learning that came my way through this. I think I am so grateful for that. It's not easy by any means, just like nurturing a baby. This is our first year where we are a K-12 school and our first batch of DP students will graduate. So it's a big year for us, my almost 10th. So that's been my journey. And like I said, I think I have cherished this journey because of the sheer learning I've been able to extract from this. And of course, I'm very grateful for the opportunities I got at school, because you may want to do a lot, but somebody has to believe in you. And I just feel that at my school, I got trust and faith and say, go do it. We are with you. We're behind you. You'll make your mistakes. That's okay.
Right.
But that's the school we want to be. We also want our students to see that it's okay to make mistakes and, grow from there. So here I am, I have a team of 30 teachers now. We work together towards running the middle and the high school. Of course, I would say we are still in the stages of establishing it. The middle years program, especially of the IB, is not an easy program because it's very open-ended. It's open to interpretations. It's what you make of it. And I like that challenge, So that's where I stand. And, of course, going strong, still making my mistakes, still learning from them.
So first of all, many, many congratulations on the journey that you've had, right? Many people just focus on the titles and what we achieve in terms of the end results. Yes. But that journey, it sounded so rewarding in itself. So many congratulations to you for that. From the journey, I have very, it just came out of when you were sharing that, the world has an opinion that teaching is an easy job. If you go and talk to somebody who's never been a teacher or who doesn't know what teaching really is about, maybe a parent, maybe anybody, right? Maybe somebody into some other profession. Somehow they feel teaching, I can do it, or anybody can do it. I would really, really love your opinion and your message to the world out there, that what is your opinion about teaching, since you are somebody who's seen different parts of the world, different professions, different walks of life in education. What do you think is school teaching all about, and how easy or difficult is it?
I think, Rishabh, it's very, very difficult to say it's easy or difficult because it's so dependent on the journey that you have, on the individual that you are. I think that the pandemic also showed how quickly this profession had to change, how the teachers had to adapt. And I feel it is a role that evolves every single day, because no 2 days look the same. Right. Like you said, there are lesson plans. And I think in my journey of 20 years, I don't think my lesson has ever gone the way I wanted it to go. But the detour that we took was sometimes equally rewarding or even more rewarding. So I don't think there is this just teacher does justice, to the title. You're a teacher, you're a confidant, you're a counselor. There are days when your students are just not up to it. Their journeys, their families, their challenges, they become a part of your own. So imagine balancing all of that along with teaching. And, we've actually at our school, we've stopped using the word teaching in isolation. We always use teaching and learning. Because there is at no point where the teacher is teaching. The teacher is learning to be able to teach. So that's what's happening all the time. So that's what I feel, that I think it's a profession that requires a lot of investment of energy, emotion, effort. So if you're thinking that I'm just going to go and teach and, come back at about 4:35 or sometimes maybe even earlier and switch off, then I think it's very, very hard. you can't switch off. I don't think I ever switch off, and I don't mean it in a like nasty way. It's just that because it's so much a part of me that you're always thinking about what I can do next, what I can do better. So it's something that you should go for, if you're really, really wanting to take that journey of learning. Because if you're not open to learning, then I think you're going to be very frustrated, and say that, okay, this is what I know, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do for the next, let's say maybe 10, 12 years of my life, and then we'll see. So right. Because it's changing, and you have to be open-minded, you have to be that risk taker continuously. So this is what the role has evolved into. It's not where you will just get your B.Ed, get your degree, do that, curriculum that's handed over to you. Curriculum design has become a very, very big part. Right. Also, it's become more interdisciplinary. So, you can't just be a science teacher. You can't just be a language teacher. Right. Sometimes I'm working with the design teacher and we're doing things together. And sometimes you're working with a science teacher. At least that's what we choose to be, because the world is not going to divide your challenges by subject. Absolutely. So that's what we try to also model at school. So that's why I said it has to be a very wide portfolio, and the scope of your work has broadened so much. That's why I said that if you think you're cut out for that, then it's rewarding. But if you're not, then it can also be very frustrating and challenging. It's better to then exit fast and find something that you really that gives you joy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I understand. What I hear is it is a highly rewarding job for the right people who know what they're getting into. If you're somebody who thinks that, it's an easy job, I'll just go spend some hours, come back, you might be in for the biggest shock of your life, because teaching is not that anymore.
Yes, so, very right.
So thinking about that, now imagine somebody is passionate and wants to become a teacher. What do you think would help them in becoming a successful teacher? What really makes a successful teacher according to, what can they do? Can they follow? I know there's no standard operating procedure. It just comes naturally. But, as somebody who's done that for so many years now, what would be your message to people who are coming in saying that, okay, this is what a successful teacher is?
Mm-hmm. I think I'm just thinking back of the time when I started at Ascend, and what me as the teacher kind of wanted and made me feel successful. Maybe that, answers your question, because it's through my journey. Maybe somebody else's looks different, but I think what was very, very important for me is to have a mentor. I think when you have somebody who has been in the field, and kind of is that person where you can take your questions, your challenges, and just be able to talk about how you're feeling, how poorly your lesson went. I remember that phase where I was investing maybe 2 hours in planning a 30-minute lesson. That's how you start. And now I can sit in 30 minutes and plan 2 days, so that's how this swaps, because that there is no point in over planning. But when you start off as a teacher, you over plan. So I just had a lot of guidance there, from my then principal at Ascend, who was the founding principal, where she was always there to listen to me, to guide me. So I think just having a mentor, is very important. And like I mentioned to you, in our very casual talk, just having that setting where that it's okay to make mistakes, because it's impossible, to be a successful teacher without having made your mistakes. So, just that faith that that, okay, if I'm going to go wrong, that's okay, and till today, when teachers make mistakes at our schools, or, a lesson doesn't go well, they're very open about it, they actually discuss that with the students. What could we have changed, to make this work? Because it clearly didn't. So, just that open environment, the trust that you get, from people who are observing you, from people who are watching you. Like, I never felt observed or watched, even when, my seniors then were sitting, in my classroom and just being a part of my lesson. And I think that's what we choose to model now. That's what I do. I very often, just teach, and I invite my teachers to come in and say, let's see, we are trying something new. This is a strategy. This is what I've just learned. Let's see how we can make it work. So this is, I think, this continuous learning, being able to make mistakes, and just the environment, giving you those opportunities, makes for a successful teacher. And of course, everything that you do after school, all the extra reading, all the extra upskilling. And fortunately with IB, they always go into curriculum updates. They have a lot of opportunities for teachers. Like I'm just training to be an evaluation leader for the middle school and the diploma program. So continuously there are these opportunities available that don't just, give you all these additional responsibilities in the whole IB space, but make you a better educator and kind of enhance, the skill set of the teachers at your own school. So this is what teaching, and of course successful teaching, is all about. But like I said, hard to define, because
as you were explaining, something very strong hit my mind. We've had these two very different versions of definition of a teacher, right? So one side is we put teacher at one extreme where we say Guru Gobindo Khade Kake Lagu Bhai, and Guru is God and teacher is equivalent to God. So you're not allowed to make mistakes at all. You're in the classroom, so you should be like the best self. And that's what teachers do. I can't make mistakes. I have to be conscious. I have to be perfect. I have to be spick and span. And then on the other side, we tell the same teachers, what are you doing? You don't do anything. You can just, anybody can teach. Now imagine, because it's these two extremes that we're talking about teaching all the time, we're not making it sound as a practical profession, right?
Yes.
And what you just mentioned, it's so beautiful. A successful teacher would be somebody who is told that it's okay to make mistakes. You have to learn as you grow. And that came out so beautifully. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to actually take your permission and mention it in one of my posts somewhere.
Please, Rishabh, by all means. And, like I said, that is the game changer, because imagine that burden of, like you said, Guru close to being God, I mean, you don't want to carry that weight with you in the class. And honestly, the students of today don't care. Let me just be very frank. They see you as a partner. I don't think they see you as, like a superior or somebody who, I would say that in the middle and high school, they don't even think that you know more, like we know more than them. Yes. And that's not even the case. They know so much more than us.
Absolutely.
But what we are trying to do is, at school is that, of course, you know a lot more, but how are you going to channel that into that understanding that you require to operate in the world? Absolutely. So that's our aim. The knowledge you can inquire, you can Google, you can check, do what you want. But now classroom time is how we're going to think with this material that we have. Yeah. And that's where we are, kind of channelizing that, so to say, teaching energy.
Beautiful. So it's like moving the role from the information provider, wherein a teacher decides what should the person know, to basically an information curator, that there is so much that you can know on your own. Let me tell you what you should focus on, and then define that. So that's the change in the role. Beautiful.
Yeah. My job is just challenging them with questions. They most of the classrooms in every subject area are about a lot of debating. You think like this, but I think like this. So, how do we find a common ground? Do we need to find a common ground? Are we okay with our differences? So this is what, education has become all about. That's why I said that when you say successful teacher today cannot be like an isolated subject teacher. You have to read so much. You have to be aware. You have to know what's going on around you, be able to interpret that, bring it to your class, bring your class alive. That's what teaching and learning has become all about.
And so I think we can very clearly say that teaching and learning today is not the easiest job, and it's not for somebody who doesn't want to get challenged. So imagine if it is something which really is really I'm missing that word. I don't want to say mind-boggling, but mind-opening, something like that, right?
Yes.
It opens up your mind. And if it is challenging that somebody learns new things on an everyday basis, and if you look at the next generations, all the youth that I'm meeting these days, people in their 20s, people in their early 20s or even late 20s, I find they don't want to have billions of dollars on day one. What they are saying is, I should get a decent compensation, but I want to be challenged and I want to learn. So imagine if this is what they're looking for, and this is exactly what teaching provides, why are they not being attracted towards teaching? So if you had to share a message, directly targeting this youth from 20 to 30 today, and tell them about teaching, send them a message about what teaching is about, all the things that we've discussed. We'll just take that message, separately, and then, we might actually cast that separately as well, that what leaders in education are talking about, what is teaching, and message to the youth. What would that message be with balance of all
I'm
those
just trying to think how I would frame that as a message, because I have so much to say. And I just feel that it's very important that the youth experiences that form of learning. I think that's where the gap lies, that there are not enough students or enough schools that are providing that, space for them to learn. So I think I would tell them that it's a profession. It's very multifaceted. So I think if you're looking at, that boost of creativity and critical thinking, then I think this is the space, you can be in, because you get to do this on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Any other job has its mundane, requirements, that you would have to do maybe the same thing every day or every quarter. But I think teaching can give you that, like I said, that boost of, creative and critical thinking, which no other job allows you. I also think collaboration is big, because, this whole collaborative format that you get to learn in, for example, at our school, and if you were to teach that, I mean, that's a life skill. We were never put in those situations at school where you actually practiced collaboration. So
Right.
imagine everything that you collect, in terms of this collaborative work approach and creative thinking and critical thinking that you can do on a day-to-day basis. You want your brain to be alive, right? You want it to be ignited at all points of time. So what better profession, than teaching, that allows you to do that, instead of sitting in maybe one office. And I don't know I've been in those offices. I've also been in that corporate field, where I've experienced that, and that joy lasts, for a few days, a few months, maybe a couple of years. But to be able to sustain that, high that you want from life and what the youth wants today, then I think that teaching is that profession that can give you that.
Beautiful. And what I hear is that this has been so passionate and rewarding for you. Did you ever, since 2012, let's not consider before that, so since you joined SN, since 2012 till now, have you ever considered quitting the journey?
No. I think I've been very fortunate, Rishabh, that I got to do different things every day. I've been a part of 3 programs. So always growing, always reflecting, what did I learn from there, new student age groups to work with, different teachers to work with. So even in the last 2 years where, we were unprepared for everything that came our way, we didn't know what to make of this, and we didn't know how to make that work. Now when we came back to campus, it was like, oh my God, how do I do this? It was because you were so used to being online and things. So, you could, if a student was like not attentive, and you were like, okay, mute, video off,
Right.
How do I get used to all of this in the class? So even in, these times where there were a lot of new struggles, I don't think I've ever considered quitting. I think what is necessary is the change of challenges, that they grow, they keep changing. So as long as that is there, and I think that is here to stay for teaching. And I also look at it as a profession, like I said, where I get to learn every single day. So I seize every moment. Whether it's a conversation with a teacher, whether it's a conflict. I mean, there are a lot of conflicts in a school situation. Sometimes there are days where I said, am I curriculum design is my passion, but I'm just resolving conflicts this entire week. What just happened,
Yeah.
So, but I've always, initially it was hard, because conflict is tough at school. There are kids at stake, there are parents involved. But now I just believe that it's an opportunity to learn. If something's got wrong, I'm okay to say, sorry. I am okay to apologize. I'm also very open to say that, no, I don't see this as you see it. So, but I've never thought of quitting. I think I would want to do different things all the time. Maybe, I don't know, at some point go back to Germany and, try a different setup there, because a new context challenges you.
Right.
So
right.
Yes, those thoughts do cross my mind, but quitting, no, never.
Beautiful.
I don't think I would ever want to do. I don't think any other job, like I said, and I hope this adds to my message to the youth, can challenge you and keep you challenged the way teaching, or I would say even educational leadership can, because today educational leadership is, I think, at par with any other leadership position in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not maybe compensated like that, like the corporates, are, but yes, at par in terms of challenge.
I think what education leadership or education misses on monetary compensation, that is compensated in peace of mind and peaceful sleep at night after that day of stressful work, knowing that, okay, I have really made a difference in somebody's life, which I know so many leaders in different industries, they sleep with a headache that, oh my God, what am I doing in my life, right? So I think that's a good trade-off. I don't know, but everybody has their personal.
Yeah, I would say, Rishabh, that I do sleep in peace. When you know that you've given your best to whatever came your way, whether you that translated into success or not, that's not always for me to define. But as long as I know that I gave my best to that situation, and I think that gives me that sleep that I need. Of course, my kids give me sleepless nights, so that's a different thing. But I think my work doesn't.
Superb. So what really drives you? What's the source of that energy? Somebody at home, some outcomes that you always look for. What is exactly what that drives Varsha every single morning to get up and get going?
Yeah, Rishabh, I've tried to answer that question, to myself. I ask myself that, am I really not bored of this? Am I really, I wake up at 5:15. I'm on campus by 7:28 in the morning, and of course my day goes on till 4:35, sometimes 5:30 if I have calls from other countries, interviews, even later in the day, odd hours. And I ask myself that very often, and it's very hard for me to find that answer. And like I said, just new challenges. And I think India inspires me a lot. And the kind of teaching that we do, I'm so often inspired by, what India has to offer in terms of what I can take to the classroom, and, how I inspire teachers to design curriculum, because that's really where my passion lies. I feel like I got very less of that to do over the past 2 years, because you were just this problem solver. It was all about creating new schedules and hybrid and this. So kind of that took a backseat. But now being back on campus, or even in my earlier years as an educator, I just feel that all our artisans, our, culture, heritage, and I bring all of that to the classroom, and I'm amazed by how well that works in the classroom. So I think that just this diversity that I have around me to be able to draw from, that energy and then take it back to the class. I use music. I use a lot of A.R. Rahman's work in my, classrooms. And it's just that, today, this is new. I can pick from here, and this is how I can, execute this whole experience in the classroom. And it, like I said, 70% of the time it may work, 30% not, but we learn so much through that. So I think India inspires me a lot. In just being the person I am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Just the last question now. You mentioned that one should look for mentors who can guide you and who can show you the way. If you had to name any 3 people, 1, 2, 3, any number that you might want to share, name them and even thank them, right? Yeah, we'll take that part of the video and send it to them. This was a part of a live podcast where Varsha, thank you. Anybody whom you want to mention about who have been a guiding light, your North Star, somebody who really guided you well?
I think in this long journey, there have been so many, but some just instantly pop up, from the works where I have felt inspired. And of course, one is no more. I don't know if you've heard of Sir Ken Robinson, but everything that I've heard about, schooling, and I remember his very famous TED talk about how schools kill creativity.
Yes. I have goosebumps right now. You mentioned him.
Exactly.
Right. So that's what he does to educators, right?
Exactly.
He does.
And he's talking these very serious things with this tinge of humor that, it's beautiful. And that is just so fascinating. And I think every time I'm feeling I also face that drop in energy. It's not like your momentum is always very high. I think this is what I resort to. I would go back to that TED talk or his book, The Element, where it's so important, to help each student find that element. And I think back on my own journey, that's how I found my calling. So you cannot teach, the same thing to every individual in your class. It doesn't work like that. And I always tell my teachers that, you can provide that learning experience, but the understanding that the student takes away is their right and their prerogative. You cannot dictate that. You can't say that all 20 students in my class are going to go away with the same understanding. We wouldn't want that, right? We want creative people in the world. So I think Sir Ken Robinson, and I don't know if you watched one of his and Sadhguru's conversation, which I find so interesting, comparing you must just Google that. I think it's a 1 hour, 20-minute discussion between the two, these 2 different mindsets and what education, intellect, intelligence is all about. So I think he's my, number one, so to say, I feel very inspired by. I think lately I've also been reading a lot about educational neuroscience and how research, and the more we know about the brain and how that's impacting the classroom. So I'm very closely following the works of David E. Souza and Judy Willis. That's kind of my research area. That's my new learning. So these are the people. And other than that, I think I've always been inspired by our own, late President Abdul Kalam, Ignited Minds, his book. So his works, his humility, that, how you lead and, how you kind of take the blame and the credit and, all of that. So I think those are the people I really, and like I said, there are so many, but these instantly pop up, in my head. So I always go back to the books, their works, their videos, their speeches, that's very, very inspiring.
These two people, Sir Ken Robinson and Dr. Kalam, the day they went away, these are the only 2 days when I really felt I've lost something. And I've never been, right? I've never been. Yes. So I've met Dr. Kalam, in some places, but then never met Sir Ken Robinson. And so when I got to know about him, Dr. Kalam, that he was at IIM Ahmedabad, he was in that session, and then he collapsed. And I can't forget that day. I was traveling from my hometown in Karnal to Delhi. We were in a car, and I read that, and I told my driver, "Please, can you please park the car?" And I got out of the car and I stood there, for 5 minutes, just thinking about what he has done for me as an individual, right? Just following his work, nothing else. Similarly, Sir Ken Robinson, his work, and so much agree with you what all you just said. These are people who really inspire you, and there are those dark moments when you need somebody, and so completely.
And of course, you can't undermine the importance of how your students inspire you. I mean, in the good way, but they also, the wrong way, but that's also then inspiration, right? Because then you want to show them that, no, you're challenging my thinking, but let me show you, how my perspective also matters. So I think, of course, students inspire you every day, but you do need this, I would say, this circle of inspiration, from existing leaders, or like you said, Abdul Kalam and Ken Robinson, where it's just timeless, their works, you could pick it up at any point of time and it feels, that, oh yes, you can apply this like right now in this moment. And that's what I find about their work, this whole timelessness, and that reality that, yes, I can learn from this right now and, implement it. So I think that's what I also encourage, my teachers to do, that you need to find this inspiration, because you will have to resort to this at different moments in your teaching career. I want to go back to that. I want to refresh that. I want to listen to those words again. What does that actually mean? That keeps that fire going too. That's that again, 5:15 alarm. It's like, okay, I'm going to do it again today. That's true.
Oh, this is really fun. I really enjoyed this conversation today. And I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy it as well. When they hear it from somebody who's been an example, who's been setting examples and is an example of how a teacher's journey should be and how passionate one can be in the teaching profession. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Varsha. And really looking forward to come and see you in Mumbai someday.
Please come visit our school. I say our school has a very inspirational building, and a lot of educators say that, oh, no wonder you enjoy your work so much, because I think the space inspires, so that's very, very important. We'd be very happy to welcome you and show you around. So please do. One thing that when we were summing up came to my mind, also leaders should always teach. I think that's my message for all those educational leaders out there, because I think if you lose reality with the class, lose that touch with that classroom, that's not real anymore, So I feel that leaders should always maintain being in the class, because otherwise it's very easy to stray and start becoming that preacher that, you don't want to be and your teachers don't want you to be. So the success of a team depends on that, that you are there, you're with them, you stand with them in the class.
Got it. We're going to make it as one of the taglines as well. As education leaders, we should continue teaching and not just preaching. So that would come out very beautiful, actually.
True.
Got it. Thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to see you again, and had great fun. Thank you so much.